Alright guys, so in this video I have decided to turn the lights off in order to help the environment out because I didn't want to burn a lot of electricity and produce more global warming or climate change. That's right guys, in today's video I am talking about climate change. I feel it was interesting when climate change first came out. They called it global warming, obviously, and some people still do, however, that whole name has mostly gone away. And, basically what happened was, it was discovered that when the world is starting to get a bit warmer, it melted snow and ice, which uncovered Norse farms or Viking farms from a time when it was warmer, before they had anything like cars or factories or pollution or anything, sort of that nature, any of the things that are mostly blamed for, climate change. But, after that, they start to realize that this isn't happening, and the facts were turning against them. Like, say back in 2012, I know it was only a year ago, but still, like, they said that the winter then was really warm. And I admit it was warm, and it sucked, because I personally like it cooler. But what happened was the next year, this year, 2013's winter, was pretty dang cold. I mean, we had snow days, and, like, we haven't had that many snow days in a long time at school, so yeah, it kind of ruins that theory. And again, it would get really hot, and then all of a sudden they'd see it start to get really cold, and so they're like, oh geez, we can't call it global warming anymore. So of course then they had to call it climate change. Of course, it's kind of funny when you're caught in a lie, you have to change your story a little bit because, you don't want to be caught in a lie. But anyways, yeah, that's what they did to, sort of, control everyone, try to regulate, businesses and stuff like that. And then, of course, you look at the guys really pushing stuff like this, like, what's his name, Al Gore, I think, like, doesn't he, like, put off more pollution, like, every day than most Americans do in like an entire month or an entire year or something like that? But I mean, his house is like really dang polluted. I mean, don't get me wrong, I feel like we should do everything we can to respect the environment, but I mean, this is pretty ridiculous. And there's another thing I wanted to point out about climate change or global warming or whatever. Oh yeah, so you notice that when the politicians do this, and I think they do it for a number of reasons. I mean, A, they want to get votes. B, they want money. You can sell books on it and whatnot. And C is another thing I've heard, is it's like a psychological thing. So, I mean, people tend to have a fear of too much success, like the Tower of Babel. Psychologically we think, oh well, eventually we're going to become too big and we're going to come crashing down, so let's not, build ourselves up too much and something bad is going to happen. And really it's not, because I really think that, this whole political thing is just a way to get power. We're the government, you need to give us power to save you, and not votes or money for our agenda and whatnot. Because I mean, nowadays really scientists have become the new priests, and I'm not saying like all scientists are like this or bad or anything like that, of course not, but I think it's really beginning to happen that scientists are becoming like priests. The government will fund some science program so that they can use it for some way to get power. In this instance, it's like getting votes or something like that. And I don't know, it's It's the way it is, you know. It's like back in the day, Martin Luther, which I should probably make a video on him. I feel he was probably the first person to really question the hierarchy. He was reading the Bible and he found that a lot of the things the priests said was not true. You know, it was wrong. And he posted like his 95 Theses on the door, and he questioned it, and he got in trouble for it. Why? Because back then the priests, or the religious system, was used to control the people, and when Martin Luther did that, it obviously not questioned their authority, and that's why they didn't like it so much. And so, you know, ever since then, you know, anyone could just read the Bible once he translated it in German. Anyone could go and read the Bible, you know, not just priests. And so, you know, a Catholic authority figure could be confronted by just some novice, you know, and could beat him in a debate. You know, anyone could know about the Bible now. It wasn't just, you know, your hierarchical system of people who know everything. And so nowadays, you know, people are starting to become less religious because of that, or they no longer really have the Catholic hierarchy. So what do they need to do for control? Well, they need to use science, you know. Scientists become the new priests, the new people who manipulate everyone and use their scientific knowledge to control people. Even though, you know, it's easy to find the truth. It's just that, you know, they're scientists, therefore they're the experts, and they're automatically right, and they know everything. You know, but another thing I'd like to bring in mind, which is really interesting, is why, you know, why is it that the world is ending all of a sudden? Like, I mean, we had global warming, which is going to melt the glaciers and flood the earth and, you know, kill the polar bears or whatever, you know, and then I heard this theory, this idea that we stomp around and drive around and we misplace too much dirt, and eventually it's all going to go in the ocean, we're all going to drown. Like, that's literally a theory I heard. And of course that's ridiculous. I mean, there's not a shortage of dirt last time I checked. And we've been running around and stomping on the dirt for like thousands of years. And there's thousands more years. So why is it that now we have to start worrying about this, you know? And some people who believe in climate change or global warming blamed it on cow farts. I'm like, cows have been farting for thousands of freaking years. Why do we have to worry about this now? You know, and then you hear all these people talking about, you know, like December 21st, 2012, and, you know, of all these preachers saying the Lord's going to come again today, and it's like, why are all the apocalypse happening now, you know, today, like, in our time? Why wouldn't they have happened a long time ago, or are not going to happen in the future? I mean, it seems like if one person came out and said, oh, this scientific disaster is happening, and this is what's going to cause the world to end, you know, then we would all just sort of take to it, and you know, maybe we could believe it, you know, and say the world's going to end in this whatever time because of this scientific catastrophe. But once you hear about, like, all sorts of, like, theories and whatnot, like, all at the same time, and how the world's going to end, like, in our current date, you start to get a little suspicious after a while. And to me, what it's all about is using fear as a means of control, you know. It's like saying, this is what's wrong with you, you know, it's all over, but vote for us, give us the power, and we'll be your saviors, you know, we'll save you from whatever's going on, and we'll be the hero, or whatever, you know. You know, government, politicians, scientists, you know, trying to get power by portraying themselves as, like, some sort of messiah figure who's going to save them from everything we go wrong as long as we put our trust in them or whatever. And, you know, it's it's just, it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, it's just a scam to get power, and, I'm glad there's less and less people now I'm getting tired, talking about climate change, which is definitely, great, because that was one of the things that was just, starting to get really irritating. Another point I'd like to make out is that you see the liberals talk about this all the time. They're saying we need more regulation to stop this global warming, this climate change. And it's almost like government regulations are what cause these sorts of things to happen in the first place. You mean, let's look at one of the theories is like, oh, they're cutting down all of our trees. We don't have enough trees in the forest, whatever, we're all gonna die from lack of oxygen, or our resources are being depleted. It's like, oh, well, hemp can produce way more paper than trees, and it grows really quickly, and it's really easy to grow. But you know what? They banned hemp. But of course the liberals would probably say it should be legalized, and of course so would I, but still, that's a problem the government created. So instead of regulating tree cutting down, why don't you just do what's more efficient? But of course, one of the reasons they banned it in the first place was for logging companies to thrive. So, that right there is corruption. Extreme corruption. What are some other things? Yeah, hemp can also produce fuel. Engineers have come up with ways that everyone can power their homes very free and very cheaply and very safely, without nuclear power or anything. You don't believe me, you can look that up. I'm not going to have time to tell you about all the examples now. And, the government put them in jail. Why? Because the government wants you on the grid. The government wants you using their power, their money, and it's just, it's just ridiculous. With all these taxes and regulations, we could be using solar power or wind power, whatever the heck by now. Whatever's better, whatever's seen cheaper and better, but nope, it's just government stepping in, creating regulation, taxing everyone. That's preventing a lot of this from happening. So, yeah, that's all I really have to say for this video right now. I hope you all enjoyed it, and Auf Wiedersehen.